Today we're going to do a Murphy DS602, and with our shelves going down, this is kind of the in tray of our own tat. Let's just see whether we can show you some of the tat that's on here. Some of these are business radios. There's a couple of Maxon PM150s. Oh, and that thing's in the way, so we're not going to see anything lower than that. See what we can see in the gap. Not a lot. Right. We'll go over to the normal camera. So, the Murphy DS602 is very much like the same circuitry basically as those awful ICOM ICB1050s. Do you remember the ICOM ICB1050 is nothing whatever to do with the communication company ICOM, who make ham radios and marine radios and business radios. Do not think for one moment it has anything to do with it any more than a £1.99 Omani bag off AliExpress. No. But it's the same circuitry, but instead of those having those whole series of sets, that one comes to mind immediately. There's the Signal 1001, there's the Lucas ACB888, all basically the same thing, with a multi-general purpose Motorola synthesizer chip and the three crystals, and you've got to faff about with the marker generator to set the receive. Well, on the Murphy DS602, which was custom manufactured for JJ Silber, and this looks like the wrong screw. That's huge. That's great universal mail order catalogues. So whereas the Spinitronic was custom made for the Littlewoods group of mail order catalogues, the Murphys were custom made for the Great Universal group of catalogues. And I think those duet ones, they were, I can't remember which of the catalogues they were. So no idea what we have here. But the difference is that we have an ordinary synthesizer, the Sanyo LC7137. So it's much easier to service. It's the same pretty dismal performance as far as receive, intermodulation and all that goes, but hey, you know, what's it matter, because it's not like there's people on every other house with a silver rod base station aerial. So I don't know whether we've even done one of these before, but we're going to do this one, and I need to unsolder the speaker. To be honest, it doesn't look faffed with at all, does it? No. I think these were originally something like £69. So we talked about voltages, weren't we? And it was 13.8 we're saying is the standard. This is suggests it's 13.2. But I will be interested to just see if we power this up. I think somebody's used it as a base station. It's got a banana plug on it. I want to use one of these as a base station. Don't know about you. I was hoping I got something like a Rotel 220, but I couldn't spot it because I was going to do a recap on Cybernet, because although it is totally alien to me to do complete recaps, you just change the ones that are faulty. It's been successful on those audio lines, and it's certainly been successful on the Fidelity 1000, which I still need to finish because the squelch doesn't work on it. So I thought we'll make sure we've got capacitors in stock for the Cybernet 134 chassis. And the reason I was looking at on the shelf was in the hope that we got something like a Rotel 220. I could see a York 861 up there. I could also see some grinning sets which will probably never work. Oh, and isn't it frustrating when you buy them and somebody's put the wrong knobs on them? And you know, you're trying to you know, have a little bit of a collection of vintage sets, and they've got the wrong knobs. It really spoils it. Right, so we'll switch this on. 13.8 volts. Let's come straight on. 23. Let's put it to channel 20. Switch picture in picture on. Oh, put the right camera on. And we'll key up. So I'll have it on the 3 watt scale, so 3 watts will be full scale deflection. We must be on low power. We are on low power. It's gone beyond, it's just beyond 3 watts. And it's nearly on frequency. So if I put that onto the 4 watt scale, it's just about 3 watts. So we'll keep it on the 3 watt scale. So full scale deflection already is doing 3 watts. So we'll just turn the power supply. I'm going to keep this keyed up. We're going to turn the power supply down, and we'll turn it down to 12 volts. So I'll tell you where we are. So we're at 13.2, and it's just under the 3 watts now. And now we'll turn it down to 12.8, which is what a normally charged black battery is. So it's now 2.4 watts. So we'll turn it down to 12.4. 12.4. It's now 2.3 watts. We'll turn it down to 12. That's 12. It's now 2 watts. So now we're going to turn it up, and we'll turn it up to 14.4, which is how some of the cars we've got are charging. So it's gone beyond that scale, and we're now looking at about 3.3 watts. So from a charging battery with the car engine running 14 is 3.2 watts, right down to 2 watts with a 12 volt battery. So that's today's little thing on that. Anyway, we're going to do a retune on the set. It looks like it's working, to be honest. Just needs a retune. So I'm going to go for a lunch break, and I'll be back to do a service on it. Right, so I've just looked at my emails, and gentlemen sending in one of these for service. Would you believe that? Must be a mind reader, knew what I was doing. So, making sure we're at 13.8 volts. We'll go through the transmit. I've got no circuit diagram for these sets, so it's one of those educated guess sets. My goodness, that's brought it up, hasn't it? 3.3. Use the bigger tool for that one. It was 3.5. we'll have to be satisfied at that, which is par for the course, really. Is that an adjustable one? No. Yeah, he's 3.6, and it's, you know, still, you know, we've been running it for 3 minutes there. Let's see what it says into the spectrum analyzer. Right, didn't pick it up, so I'll do it manually. So we'll just look at the... Oh, I better put the right camera on. Let's just move that across and measure that. That's our harmonic. Minus 48. It really needs to be minus 52 or something like that. Right, so on this final one, see whether we can move it upwards or downwards to remove that, to drop that. So we're having to change the power, but with the slightest movement brought it down to 55. Yes. So that's within spec, just. So go back to the power meter. 3.5, and again it's warm. Out of interest, we'll turn the power up to 14.4. So the vehicle's charging. And yeah, it's doing 4 watts, you see. And if we turn it down to 12 volts, it's doing 2.5 watts. Okay, so that's transmitting. Now let's make sure it's on frequency. So we're hoping for 2779125. It's 2779123, so it's virtually spot on. So with the trimmer capacitor there, it doesn't need moving. Certainly not that much. Well, there we are. Right, so moving on to, let's see what the meter says. It needs to be in the centre of the red zone. I seem to recall it's one of these two, so let's go for that. That's the one. So that's now in the centre of the red zone. Deviation. I think it's going to be that one unless we've got a low power. Let's have a look. Oh, we were last on AM. What were we doing? It's a bit high. It's a lot high at 3.5. It's not that one. It actually turned to full, that preset, which is ridiculous. Wallow. Wallow. That's about where we should be. It's not like AM, you know, people have read stories from American AM sets and turning up the modulation, and you know it's getting out better. It doesn't work like that on FM. And if it's too loud, it's like trying to get a fat guy through a thin door. It's not going to happen. It's going to chop the sides off. You actually have less torque power. So there's a happy medium, and that's exactly where it should be. All FM radios are speech processed. You don't need these power mics and that, unless there's preamplification snags. There's the odd radio, those Cobra 29s, that thing that looks really, really swish, which is only just not a current model. The transmitted audio on those, it just won't come high enough. So that might be an instance where a power mic might help, but or just don't buy those sets. So well, I'll be squelches I've upset there, or is it low power? Let's look at low power. So we'll go back to there. Low power. Yeah, I think I've upset low power. There we are. 400 milliwatts where it should be. Change that back. So is this the reason I don't like these sets? There isn't a squelch preset, is there? I remember when I worked at Nottingham Radio and a lady came in with one of these type of sets, and she wasn't satisfied with the way the squelch worked on it. And I said, well, if you leave it with us. I'm not leaving that. It's an expensive CB radio. You know, we were doing £450 business radios all day. She wouldn't leave me a 20 quid CB set, and that's about where it was at the time. And I had to think of a modification to make the squelch work better, which I did. And we don't do modifications here, but sometimes, you know, when you were we were having retail customers come in, and oh, she was an awful piece of work, and she clearly didn't like men either. That was another thing. Man, she got a number of children. Right, there we are. It's receive time. I know what else that woman said. She said, what the dog has, the little boy has. So she proceeded to give the dog a Mars bar and the little boy a Mars bar. Hope she didn't give the little boy the dog food. Okay, I can't hear any receive. We're now on channel 9. That's right. That's why. There we go. So it was 100 microvolts on. So let's see what the meter says. It says 8, so it's pretty close. That. So with that preset, we'll bring that up to 9. So there we go. That's S9 set. That's 100 microvolts for CBs in the UK. I'll tell you what, it's receiving all right as well. I'm not going to, just before I start, let's look at this, what the cyanide meter says. Especially if I put the cyanide meter on. So for 12 decibel cyanide, the radio is doing currently 0.59 microvolts, 0.59. I'll keep the volume down. So we'll move it now to about 4 decibels and see if we can tune it any better. I'll tell you what, we just have done. I'm not being clever, but you know, we can set these better than they were set at the factory. Just do these IFs at about there. Or is that the detector? That's the detector. So go back to S9, put the oscilloscope on, set the detector. That's not easy to set. Slightest pressure. Let's go back to that one. Can't see any effect on that. Oh yes. It's one of the IF ones lurking up there. So just do that one. That's it. It's a simple receiver, less stages than some. Wonder if it picks up the radar at RAF Cranwell like that Lucas ACB888 did. So now let's look at how we're doing with that cyanide. 0.59 wasn't it for 12 decibels, and now it's 0.51, so we have improved it a bit. For 10 decibels it's 0.45, and for 20 decibels, if the radio will do it, it will. It is 1.45 microvolts for 20 decibels cyanide. So 0.51 is where we are with it, which is fine. Now this will let down on these sets to squelch. Nothing I can do except tell you. Full squelch. So 1 microvolt. I'll switch this so that we can see the attenuator. 1 microvolt, 3 microvolts, 10 microvolts. So the exact figure is it's coming on at 4.5 microvolts, and it's going off at 1.1 microvolts at full squelch. So it's not a very strong squelch. You can imagine in the days of the silver rod on every other house, and the woman with the dog and the little boy, that she wouldn't be able to squelch anybody out in those days. But it won't be a problem today, and let's see whether we can turn that down and have decent sensitivity. So I'll switch the signal generator to standby. We'll set squelch to threshold. I do like the busy light on these, channel 3 light. It was the first set to do this for the UK market. Or did the DNT do it as well? So we'll switch the signal generator on, which is parked at 0.3 of a microvolt. And that's come straight in. And it's disappeared off at, it's coming in at 1.1 microvolts, and it's going out at 0.7 of a microvolt. So we should have the sensitivity there to get through scratchy corner quite well. So it's come with a replacement mic of the type we use. So that's it. I think we're all done. Not as many adjustments because of that no squelch situation. It has a channel 9 switch. It's not heavily used. We'll put the speaker back, and just for the laugh, it was negative. It was black to negative. We'll just see whether, I'll just take picture in picture off. We'll just see whether black to negative is correct, and it is. And we'll look at how many watts it's doing on our targometer, which takes everything into consideration rather than just 27 megs. So these are made in Korea. Never be tempted to blow while the solder dries, or you won't end up with a dry joint. just for those people who are new to this. I found these speakers are now like a £5 each. I had to order one for a customer. So it's a cheaper made set, but apart from the squelch, it's alright. Oh, I'll tell you another one which was the same with the other. I can't remember whether it has this chip in it for the Sanyo one, or whether it has the Motorola general purpose one, and that's the York JCB27. Because you've got the 861, which is Cybernet, the 863, which is Cybernet, the 869 base station, which is Cybernet, and the 867, which is not that brilliant a set. I forgot these really should have these big screws in. It's forgotten they have massive screws. A bit like the ones you put in Unidem bases. These radios originally came in a white cardboard box with nothing except a repeat of the back label, which is missing on this one, where it says Murphy DS602 and the serial number. And you know, most sets had a gift box, you know, with some pictures on it, but not with these. Right, we'll put it on the aerial. And then we'll do an on-the-air test with Mr. Chippy later on. And with those figures off the bench, it should work all right. No, Roger.
When they're like that, the fucking water table's really high, you know. Oh, it's been quick, that one, you know, on now.
There we go, the Murphy DS602 from 1981. Thank you for watching.